Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time to wait for me at the slot this evening. Hopefully I can try and update everybody on progress, which is, to be perfectly honest, rather nicely. Let's go to the disclaimer. Disclaimer as usual, shares can go up and shares can go down. And when talking about our shares, what I'd like to articulate is that, look, this is, I keep emphasizing, is not a 5-bagger, not a 4-bagger. We've now developed a company, not dissimilar to Dorian's company earlier. It's not, and we're trying to grow the company nice and steady. We're a profitable services company in a very high growth sector, the pharma sector. Our aim regards the share price, I keep emphasizing, is not a 5-bagger. We've, in the last year, more than doubled the share price. Our aim going forward is that we can do that every 12 months and 50% every 6 months. I think that's a good target. So I keep emphasizing to our loyal followers, we're going to keep liquidity and we keep doing presentations. We're going to keep issuing the good news and keep growing the share price. And the target, our internal target, is grow that by 50% every 6 months, 100% every 12 months. And that's not a bad target. And it's so far so good. Finally, in the share price, people are kind of worrying, why is it anytime there's news flow, it kind of gets stuck in around 13 and it gets stuck around 14. Look, that's very simple. We raised purely institutional money, 12 million after all costs at the end of May. And that was from 12 institutions, some of the very large London ones, some of the biggest ones. To our surprise, they all came in. Quite a few of them look at that liquidity and say, wow, I can get 20 or 30% very quick turn. So anytime we've been seeing, there's some of those institutions holding a good chunk, but top slice and selling off small bits here, small bits there. So that's where people are asking. There is no big seller. Our one big seller, the former Whitford stake, is now long gone. They're off the share register. So we've no single distressed seller. We've no single big seller. But we do have, let's be frank, people, institutions come in 11p. And at 13, 14p with lots of good news flow. A lot of institutions say, well, if I can get 20 or 30%. So anyway, I'm not selling. I'm in for the long haul. And in actual fact, I can't sell. I invested heavily June last year at IPO, and I'm locked up for 2 years. But anyway, that's enough. I'd like to say with regards to share price, just to give people comfort. We do watch our register very well. We've got some great institutions, and even better, we've a fabulous loyal following now, and we want to reward them. Look, experienced management team is very simple. We've taken our two companies, put them together, and really there's no magic sauce. Really, we've taken the costs out. We took two public companies. We've got rid of two CEOs, got rid of two COOs, got rid of two CFOs. That's 6 very highly paid, experienced, expensive people, and replaced them with little old me. I've got multiple roles: executive chairman, CEO, and Leo Toole, CFO. But really, it's not little old me and Leo that's really driving the company. It's the long heroes of these companies that have been around, such as Andrew Catchpole, our Chief Scientific Officer. He's been there 14 years. We've Adam French, many long years, head of laboratory. Brandon Lunt, many, many long years. And then in our Breda operation, Katsu and Sabine running Breda, many long years within Venn. And go to Paris, we've Isabel, Elise, Christian Lara, and Francois. So really, our magic sauce is find the real fee earners. We're a fee earning business, free them up, take away that bureaucracy, and set them free and get on with the job of basically bringing income and building a bloody good business. Really what we are, look, we're a fast growing, and this is out of date, soon to be profitable. We are now generating cash. We always said in the second half of the year, there will be no more losses. We're well and truly there. We're a high margin business. And the reason we're a high margin business, we are the world leader in the testing of vaccines and antivirals. A little more of that to come in a minute. But as a result, we're a broad customer base, many global pharmas, but guess what? Virtually every large vaccine producer in the world has either been a customer or currently are. How do we end up being a world leader, a small niche company? Well, basically, we acquired Venn and the jewel in the crown, the most valuable, exciting, luckiest acquisition of my life, and I'm 56 next month, and I did a lot of deals, was acquisition of hVIVO. It took a lot of work in the first half to knock it in the ship. It was massively loss making, but guess what? Sometimes you can be lucky, and I think we were lucky, but also you can have a good pandemic, and a lot of people have a bad pandemic. For Orphan, hVIVO, acquiring the world's largest, leading and only testing company of vaccines. in January, when there was very few vaccines being tested. Suddenly the pandemic arrives and vaccines is very important. Look down the bottom right hand corner, the range of customers. Janssen, one of the largest vaccine producers in the world, born in England, second biggest company in Germany. DARPA, that's American Defense Research Organization. Merck, Germany's largest pharma. Gilead, we all know about Gilead, the leading antiviral, and look, lots more. I'm not going to dwell too much on them, other than we've had, and if you look at those names, we've had decades of money being spent on oncology, a decade or so on genetic therapy, and I'm convinced we are now just at the start of a decade or two of the vaccines and virologies. And this is a vaccine virology company. So I'm telling all the staff, hold on tight. We're going to have a fun ride. And literally, there's deals coming in, and watch this space, more of that to come in a minute. So I believe we're now facing into a decade of vaccine growth, which is a pretty good place to be. A snapshot, this is rather out of date. It was back at the end of June, but it was market cap at 77. I think we've about touched 100 million in recent days. But look at that, we've over 15.5. Our interims will be due out in the coming week or 10 days before the end of September. And you'll see that the cash is growing. If we're losing money, the cash wouldn't be growing. Just a little bit of preface and interims. We're telling people don't get overly excited about what they're coming. It is the first half of the year. You'll see clearly from interims. We'll be guiding the market very clearly. hVIVO has Europe's only 24-bed quarantine clinic. It's never been 20% full in the past, last year, previous year. Well, guess what? This year, we're full to occupancy, and we're going to guide the market. We're looking very soon, in the coming months or two, that clinic to be block booked out 18 months. Fingers crossed, within a month or two, it'll be blocked out for 2 years in advance. And we'll be looking for more facility space. So that's how you make money in this business. Fill that unused capacity. We shut a lot of offices. We're now a London-based business with a small arm in Paris and a small arm in Breda. That's outside Amsterdam. Sticky shareholders, myself and the co-founders invested. I invested a large part of my net worth into it. I'm so glad I did now. We've over 20%. We're locked in for 3 years, 1 down, 2 more to go. Invesco, 7.9. They're in for the ride. They're delighted what we're doing. I'd say we've got 12 then of pretty much leading institutions. None of them over 3%, because when you raise 12 million in the end of May, and we shared it around, but they're a nice shareholder base. And we're not raising any more money. I've said recently, the next time we have any good money, it's hand money back to our shareholders. So I'm making it very clear, no more fundraisers in this company. Really, the highlights I want to talk, this company is a deal business. The only way we're a services company, we're profitable, is you make money by banging out the deals. And our average deal now is 3 to 4 million every time. So watch that space in the coming weeks, more of deal size, that shape. And working back from the end of page 7, just touching a few of them. The 10th of August, there was we announced a 4 million RSV with a top 3 pharma. Well, guess what? That was Pfizer. Some months, a month or 2 earlier, we announced another one with a top 3 pharma. That was with J&J. 28th July, and this deal was probably the most transformational deal for us. We announced the world's first tested in Europe of a COVID-19 vaccine with Codagenics. That is the only company in the world that Bill Gates personally has invested in. We are now starting that trial in our East London facility, and that is really, really exciting. Before that, we had a bunch of other deals, and I keep saying, watch this space. I've always guided the market. One good deal every month, and that's a good target. And let's see, with a smile on my face, kind of stick to that. And as we all know, there's not a lot left in September, but let me see, can we keep up the train? Challenge studies, and look, it's very important. What are they? What's the story? Look, challenge studies, we test vaccines by bringing individuals in to a quarantine unit. That's pictures of them. The problem with doing these big COVID tests around the world, you have to test them on tens of thousands of people. We bring 24 people into our clinic. A month beforehand, half of them get the vaccine, half of them get the placebo. We bring them in, we wait a month for the vaccine to take effect. It always takes a month for a vaccine to work. And then day 2 of a 2-week stay in our quarantine clinic, which is like a luxury hotel bedroom, except with doctors and nurses watching, we ensure 100% of those volunteers get exposed to the virus, normally RSV, influenza, in this case, COVID. And COVID is happening, and a bit of that in a moment. And that means after 2 weeks, we can guarantee to the owner of that vaccine company 100% of the volunteers got exposed, half of them with placebo, half of the vaccine. So we immediately know, does the vaccine work or not? So that's where challenge studies, they don't take long. A complete study is 2 months, 3 months. Very nice. We get paid up front. Any of those contracts you see you signing 4 million, they kick off almost immediately. These are not things that last months and months and years and years. The average challenge study is 3 months. So really that's that. Most people are wondering and waiting and say, well, Cathal, what's the story on the COVID-19 vaccine? Well, watch that space. You can take it from my tone of my voice. We are pretty darn close to announcing something exciting in that space. And all this is wait. And I think people will be happy. But it is absolutely going according to plan. We will be the first company in the world, and we've guided the market. It's not new. It's getting close to announce that we're starting testing vaccines using COVID-19, and that's COVID-19 in our challenge studies here in East London. That's a bit more details in the challenge. I'm not going to go into it. People can read up a bit more, but I think I've explained what the challenge study is really about. But maybe I'd like to divert ever so slightly and give a little bit of a view on the overall pandemic, because we've got a kind of, let's say, ringside seat. We're talking all the vaccines. My view is, look, the world at the minute is uncertain and scary, but look, the reality is there's no vaccine just yet. But by late this year, but more likely springtime and early summer, there will be an awful lot, 8, 10, 12 COVID-19 vaccines, all given emergency authorization, as our friend in the White House is trying to desperately to make them emergency authorized. As soon as he does one, there's certain he'll do one before the elections. Other governments and countries around the world will follow suit. So that means early next summer, there'll be a bunch of vaccines. But guess what? None of them will work for more than 12 months. I'm joking. They will all work. They'll give immunity for 12 months, but that's it, 6 to 12 months. So during next summer, we'll have a host of 10, 12 vaccines around the world. All of them will work for 6 weeks, 6 months, 12 months. And what my belief is, we've just got to get through this bumpy winter. It'll be stop, start, stop, start. And then by the summer next year, the world will have lots of vaccines, all of them effective, but only for a year. And the governments will stop this nonsense, and it is nonsense of complete clampdowns, and they'll get the world back to work, and they'll say, look, lots of emergency authorizations. When a vaccine is given emergency authorization, that means it's available for the sick, the elderly, the old, the vulnerable, the doctors and nurses. And guess what? Does that not sound familiar? That's the same people who get the annual flu jab. So the end of next summer, I would bet that the world will say, when you're taking your flu jab, be a good boy and girl, take your COVID jab. COVID's going to be with us for a long time. It's not going away. It means we'll get a lot of work out of it, but it means by the end of next summer, this social distance business and everything else, anybody who's afraid of COVID, there'll be a vaccine. We all know a lot of people in the world won't want to take it, the anti-vaxxers, but my view is anybody who's concerned about it will take the COVID jab, and it becomes suddenly an annual business that has to be dealt with. However, from hVIVO Open Orphan's perspective, that means for quite a few years, there'll be loads of money spent on better and better and better COVID vaccines and other vaccines, because the first wave of COVID vaccines will last 6 to 12 months in immunity, but they will get better and they'll push them up to 2 years and 3 years. That means we've got a lot of work coming down the track, testing that I call it a sea of COVID vaccines coming. Lab services, look, it is flying along. Again, I don't have to say very much other than read the papers. There's a shortage of lab testing capability, no matter what anybody says. But the government is doing a great job. They're building it up. We're part of it. So anybody who's got a lab doing testing is doing good business. And I think I should say a little more other than we're very, very happy what's going on in our lab services arm. And again, we've got kind of lucky there. This is the one, the really exciting one. Again, sometimes something is going to go wrong somewhere for me, but this year has been a really good year. We built up this genomic database platform, and guess what? hVIVO has the world's largest database of infectious disease progression. And guess what? Our friends in the smartwatch business want to have a watch that can watch disease progression and tell you, beep, 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 go to the doctor, looks like you've got influenza. The same little smartwatch might go beep, 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 looks like you could have an infectious disease that could be COVID and all that sort of good stuff. We have the database for them, and we are actively, and we'll be disappointed if we don't announce before the turn of the year, hopefully, a large deal with a large wearable where we will give them exclusive access to our database, and that will allow them to have a little watch to go beep, 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 to tell you, can't guarantee what's wrong, but giving indications. So that is a really exciting development. Out of left field, couldn't believe it when the wearables came looking. Normally, we're dealing with pharma companies and vaccine companies, but now we've got wearables as customers. Don't even go near the break-even point. We're well past that, and say we're generating cash. And being honest with you, the real hard workers in this company now are our line managers, the long-suffering staff. We've removed the middle layer, the upper layer, and it's very skinny. It's myself and Leo and a few other people, but the real hard workers are the Adams, the Andrews, the Christians, all of those across the group, and we're really happy. Everybody within the group has at least 2 jobs, and everybody is a revenue earner. Current trading, not going to bore you. There's lots of, I think there's rarely a fortnight goes by we don't announce a deal, and say our deals are short term. The minute we get them, we get a third cash up front. So that's why I say we're a cash generative business. It's a cash positive business, and we deliver the product in the weeks and months after, not years. This pipeline, not going to dwell on it, it's taking shape, and I think people got bored looking at it, but just watch this space carefully in the coming month or so. But plenty more deal flow coming from that pipeline, and we're really happy we're on target as we have guided the market to date. Global awareness, not going to go into it. hVIVO, Open Orphan has got a lot of global coverage, just in a lucky space. Summary, we're a niche CRO, we're growing, with this out of date, we're generating cash, that's past tense now. High margin, broad customer base, fabulous growth opportunity. We are in the space of exceptional growth for another 5 to 10 years. We're just a lucky space, and we've got all sorts of testing opportunities. I'm not going to bore people with this graph because look, we're trying to guide the market up. Take it easy for a while. News flow, nudge it up, and our target internally says 50% uplift every 6 months. We do guide the market. Please be careful. Don't go wild. This is not a 5x or a 4x stock. This is 50% every 6 months, and hopefully a double every year. If we could do that, we'd be very happy. The last piece I want to come to, and I'll wrap up and it's time for questions, is our non-core assets. Our Uncle Neil had 113 million into this business, hVIVO. We acquired it for 13, and it came with 2 million cash. I think people will be very excited to see about the bundle of cash we will have at Christmas. It'll be a hell of a lot more than that 14 that was shown at the end of June. It would be nice to double it, but let's see. But we also, if cash is surplus, it will be handed back. So we're on target to give a dividend. But the big dividend we'd like to do is to find a home for Prep Pharma, but really important, Immutex. So again, we've set a target at the turn of the year to either IPO them or sell them. So bear with us as we're well down the track on both of those and monetizing the data. And on that, I'm not going to bore anybody with additional information. It's all there. This deck is on our website. We've also put on our website corporate governance. We're making it very clear. Nobody in this company gets a salary bigger than mine, and I'm on a salary of £140,000. I think it's a bloody good salary. I don't get a pension. I get a bonus of 30%. My other executive director, Leo, is up there under investors, corporate governance, and he's in the same 140. He gets a small pension contribution and a small bonus, and that within our company, anybody in a salary ahead of that, you know what might happen. It's not a good place to be. We're being very careful. We're highly motivated because we're the largest shareholders. We have a huge investment in it, and we believe we can deliver an awful lot in the weeks and months ahead. I keep saying, let's see where that goes. So without further ado, Roland, maybe over for some questions.
I know you don't mind being asked a challenging question, so I'll start with one. I'll read it out in its entirety, and we had a few like this. Can you convince a new investor why they should invest in Open Orphan at the current level, when each time the share price reaches this level, it gets sold into from institutions liquidating a 25% gain from the 11p May fundraise? If they don't believe in the company, why should we? off the back of that, do you regret not having one or two sole investors that are in for the long run rather than 12 IIs who are only after a quick buck?
Listen, Roland, that's the joys of having a range of institutions. Look, this company before had one large shareholder, Neil Woodford, and one small one, and it went nowhere. So my take is that, look, for those institutions, they're not selling out fully, they're taking, I said, top slicing. And that's where some of the selling, most of it comes from. They're at 11p, they get 20, 30, 40%. But as you've seen, I say, let's see what happens in a couple of weeks. Watch what progress we move. I think people might feel that's lack of confidence what we're doing. Institutions like making a quick buck, 20, 30%. I think most of them are keeping the bulk of their shares. There's not a massive amount of selling, but our view is, bear with us. We've doubled the share price, almost tripled it in 12 months. It's gone up by more than 50% in the last 3 months. We have an internal target to rise the share price 50% every 6 months. We've done it so far. And all I can say to shareholders, look, we'll keep liquidity. They can trade in, they can trade out. But we are very happy by Christmas, going by what we know, and that we're closer to it, is that we've lots of good more news flow. And maybe some of the people selling at 13, 14p might regret it when we get to Christmas. But look, it's free market. People can buy. We've guided the market that we'll keep active, and that's all we can say. And judge it by our actions, not by the selling activity.
Thank you. At a recent presentation, you said sensational news in the parentheses coming. Any more clues on timing or content?
We've been guiding that, so I kind of hinted that. We've said for quite a while the COVID-19 challenge studies, so let's watch that space carefully. That's all I can say in that regards. That will be pretty sensational news. It says on track. We only started that project 5 months ago. It normally takes 2 years. So is it a month? Is it 2? Is it less? That'll be pretty sensational. But in between, keep guiding the market. We do knock out a lot of 3 to 4 million deals, and let's not be surprised if there's 1 or 2 of those and not very far away either. So I think any small company like this that's putting through deals of 4 million to the likes of Pfizer, J&J, and others every month, and I kind of hint there, every month. So we should see some more of those coming pretty soon as well, I think, for a small company. And those are deals that get delivered within 3-4 months of signing.
We've had 6 or 7 questions here all about Immutex. I guess for some people this will be new information than for others. Any update from, I guess, the last month, 2 months since you last presented with us, or for those who are less familiar with the story overall, what's the most likely scenario for Immutex, a NASDAQ listing, some sort of other transaction, a bit of a background and overview what's happening there?
Yeah, look, Immutex is one of the 2 non-core assets Uncle Neil left in the company. That's Neil Woodford. 113 million was spent. A lot was into Immutex. It has the world's one of 2 world only universal flu vaccines that are phase 3 ready. It also has a phase 2 ready universal mosquito saliva that works for malaria, dengue, and all those mosquito-borne viruses. That's interesting. So we have 49%. Our friends in Seek Group at 51%. We did guide the market about 2-3 months ago, almost 2.5 months. We were going to sell. It's non-core. We're services. We're a profitable company, and that asset is high risk, high reward. So the plan is dual strategy. 1, we're looking at listing it potentially in NASDAQ, or 2, sell it off as a going concern. And we give ourselves 6 months to sell anything like that. It's a 6 months process. So if we do the sums from July, 6 months. I think we've a target around on or before Christmas time. So that's where I'm guiding. Watch this space between now and then, but it's making good progress. We're not disappointed, but as we were disappointed, we would say it. But at the moment, owning vaccines, particularly infectious diseases, particularly influenza, they're pretty good assets to have at the moment. But we're not going to hold them. We're going to list them, and that'll the equity be passed on to shareholders, or we'll sell them for cash, one or the other.
Okay, I understand that the info for the wearable product needs building, but how many of the existing 10,000 records are now actually available on the database for any interested parties to purchase?
We've vastly more than 10,000 at this stage, vastly more. And what we're doing at the moment is they're available to the highest bidder from the wearables. And as we all know, the wearables, there's 5 of them. the biggest companies in the world. We've already told them, come and bid and name your price and we will consider it. So that's what we're doing, and that data will be made to wearable. So I think that's a good place to be. And again, we're setting ourselves a guideline between now and Christmas to have a very positive announcement in that regard.
And is the plan to license the global health data or ultimately sell it off?
The plan would be to keep generating as much income from that data, and it's a great time to have data on infectious data. So step one, let's do a deal with the wearables, and step two, go beyond that. But I keep emphasizing we're a tiny company. The reason we're generating a lot of cash, we're not going wild building a massive big management team. Our average deal size now is 3.5 to 4 million, and we've a lot more of those in the hopper to be announced between now and Christmas. So if you do the sums between now and Christmas, a lot more, I said. I think you'll understand my optimism. Couldn't be happier. I'm sitting here in the hVIVO offices in London, and there's a bunch of staff down here in front of me still at their desks on a Thursday evening. So the team are working really well, and so we're as a team, it could never be better.
I thought you'd been relegated to the garage at home.
No, by the way, we're don't put ceilings in. Look at that. We've this is a services business. We keep telling everybody we're not some so we don't spend too much on our buildings.
I think this is about the quotient machine. What has been the response from large corporates in regard to your testing packages?
Good question. Absolutely. Well, I think the answer to that, read the news today. The response is pretty good.
Okay. I'm going to read this out. Are you not concerned with the constant ethical coverage of CHIMs, i.e. will regulators prevent their use?
No, I think, look, where we are, I think nobody really in the world knew what CHIMs, which is a human challenge study. That's what CHIMs mean. 6 months ago, 12 months ago, they're now world news. Some people don't like the idea, but most people realize there's an association called One Day Sooner. If you want to bring any vaccine forward by 2 or 3 years, it's one of the few ways of doing it. So yes, there are pros and cons. All I would say, we're heavily regulated, and let's watch this space in the next month or 6 weeks, maybe even less. So I think human challenge studies with COVID-19 will likely go ahead. We've been saying that since March, and all I can say, that's very much work in progress and very much coming close to a resolution in the positive sense.
I guess it's not a question directly about Orphan. The gentleman here says, I love your restraint on executive salaries. Many other AIM companies could learn a lot from this. The phenomenon of management vastly overvaluating management runs rampant. How do you think shareholders should communicate this philosophy to other companies?
Look, I don't really know. My view is I've been a reasonable, decent investor in small AIM companies. I also meant to say there's absolutely no current employee, absolutely no current executive, current director of Orphan, hVIVO, Venn has any options going forward or will get any options under my. So I think options are theft from the company, and I'm one of the largest shareholders. I think we pay people a good salary, they do a good day's work, and I just think our model was take these companies, fix them, and show people there is an alternative way to do a small AIM company. Go like hell, do it, deliver it, and the share price will reward us. And having the management team all with substantial package. So I think every company is their own way. Our way is we're a services company. We've got to be careful, and we can't be burning through big salaries. And really importantly, check through on our corporate governance. None of us have options, and nobody is getting options. If they want shares, go buy them. That's what I tell all our management team.
Okay, thank you. Last one, I think. Any news or any updates on Prep Biofarm?
Work in progress. I say we've given ourselves to now in Christmas to have both the non-core assets, and that is basically Prep Biofarm. We own 64% of it, and we own 49% Immutex. Both of them are non-core. So let's see, but both is very much work in progress.